Welcome to That's Life podcast with
Leah.
and Shaun. Thanks for tuning in today. If you haven't, please do so. Like and subscribe on our platforms at Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify.
Absolutely. Make sure y'all show love to us. When you come in, let us know that you're here so we can show some love to you. We're super excited about tonight's show. But before we introduce everybody into the show, of course, we got to talk about our sponsor of the evening. So our sponsor comes from Melly B Co. Melly B is out to provide better alternatives for bath, body, and home fragrance. For more information, go to her website at mellybco.com. And of course, you can find all that information right below on our ticker as well too. Y'all, if you can believe it's her last episode.
Ooh.
Last episode for season 10. It's been a wonderful season full of great conversation to educate, empower, and encourage you. So we wouldn't be able to end our season without ending it with a really big bang. This is going to be a great show for all of those that are looking to find family and just to kind of reconnect. We are here to talk about finding your roots with our very special guests, Jen Norman, Rob and Sandy Carter, and Jewell Scott from Nationwide DNA. We're going to talk about just their stories and just how we've come to be at this point. This is a Q&A session, so feel free to drop all your questions in the box because we'll be able to answer them at the fourth segment, okay? So make sure that you drop your questions all throughout the show. When we come back, we're going to kick off and talk about finding your roots with Jen Norman. We'll be right back.
Introducing Melly B. Melina is the proud owner of Melly B Co. In 2019, she studied and developed formulas for artisanal handcrafted cold processed soap to give people an alternative to commercial detergents filled with synthetic perfumes and petrochemicals associated with skin disorders. As someone with sensitive skin and allergies herself, she was passionate about formulating soaps with the right pH balance. Established in 2021, Melly B Co. made it her number one mission to provide skin-loving organic ingredients in all her products and to provide better alternatives for bath, body, and home fragrance. Additionally, she was featured in the South Carolina Voyager magazine in 2022. Melly B Co.'s soaps are nourishing and hydrate the skin while rinsing off easily. Melly B runs on a 3-tier selection: mild and unscented, made with teas and infusions for the most sensitive skins; natural pigments, made with French clays and natural powders, scented with aromatherapy organic essential oils; and mineral-derived microcoloring with high-quality fragrance oils that are phthalate-free. Soaps are made in small batches, cut, cured for 4 to 6 weeks, and are carefully wrapped and labeled by hand before being shipped all over the country. Melly B is licensed and insured and operates out of the state of South Carolina. For additional information and to order products, check out their website at mellybco.com. Don't forget to follow them on TikTok and Instagram at Melly B Co.
Welcome back to That's Life podcast with
Leah
and Shaun. So if you are trying to log in on Facebook to catch our show live, for some odd reason, Facebook is down, but you could join us on YouTube.
Absolutely. Make sure that you show us some love on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in to Finding Our Roots with our first guest, Miss Jen Norman. We're so excited about having Jen on the show. But before we talk about Jen's story, we have to come with a statistic, right? We always have stats for you guys. So our first stat from the night comes from studyfinds.org. So Shaun, take it away.
So in an article written in 2022, more than 80% of people who use genetic testing to locate long-lost family members strike gold. New data reveals the majority of respondents, 82%, wound up learning the identity of at least one genetic relative, the researchers report. Around 10% of those who discovered an unknown family member identified a biological grandparent. Likewise, 10% identified a full or half sibling, while 7% stumbled upon a biological father.
And you can see the statistics as they relate to those that actually find family members. COVID-19 definitely kind of opened up the realm of people finding each other. So that's part of the reason why we're talking about this conversation. And obviously we want to make sure we shine light on the importance of genetic testing.
Absolutely.
As we said, we are here to introduce our very first guest, Miss Jen Norman. Jen, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is going to be a very good part of the show that I'm excited about, because this is something that my boo is a part of, my boo Shaun here. So, Jen, tell the guests a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, my name is Jennifer Norman. I work for a fraternity, an organization, a nonprofit organization. Been there for about 13 years. So I work in their finance department. So that's a little bit about myself.
Excellent. Excellent. So I'm going to spill the beans a little bit, because Jen is Shaun's sister. And a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people who know Shaun didn't know that Shaun has a sister. So now we're going to talk about the circumstances on how that came to be. So I'm going to ask the first question of the day, which is, Jen, what was the most difficult part about finding your siblings?
The most difficult part for me is just really finding the answers and getting my mother to acknowledge something. But for years, she never acknowledged anything about a father, or if she did, it would say, well, I saw your dad's sisters in the mall and you look just like them, which I know now it was just a lie. So that was the most difficult part for me.
And I can't even imagine what that was like for you, Jen, if I'm honest. I can't imagine not knowing if this person is your sibling or if this person is not your sibling, and kind of being in limbo. I hate that that was your experience. Obviously, when we found out that you were siblings, that was a different type of feeling, I'm sure, that you felt at that moment. And so I'm glad that even through all of that, you still got an answer that you needed. So, all right. So, Shaun, you get to throw the next question to Jen.
All right, sis. Let me ask you this question. How old were you when you asked about your paternal family tree?
I think I began asking questions around my 13th birthday. And my mom said my dad was going to make an appearance for my 13th birthday. And he never showed up. And then I started asking questions like, what is his name? So she told me his name was Larry White. So I remember back then going through the white pages, looking for a Larry White, a Larry C. White. So that's when I began asking questions at 13.
And I'm almost sure that that was a most difficult process, especially since that name is a very common name.
Yeah.
And during those days, first of all, for all the young people who don't know anything about the white pages
or the yellow pages,
for that matter, the white pages was our directory to finding people. Okay. It was, in my mind, was better than, and I won't say her name because I don't want her to go off during our show, Google. If you wanted to find somebody, you found them through the white pages. Absolutely. My question to you, sis, is what was your expectation when you reached out to your siblings? Because I think it's important to talk about the story and how you even connected and what that even looked like. So let's talk about, I guess, the connection first and how you even found each other. And then what was it like and what was your expectation as you were looking for your siblings?
Okay. Well, I did an Ancestry's DNA test because at that time I was just looking for answers. So when my Ancestry DNA test came back, it gave me a connection of a D. Leach guy. So I started sending him messages, trying to figure out who he was. You know, at first I thought maybe he could have been my uncle, or he could have been, a nephew, because it gives you a list of family members that this person could be. So he did not respond. I can see he was reading my messages, but he was not responding. So then I was going down the line of other members they was connecting me with on my paternal side, asking them, hey, do you know this D Leach person? You know, I'm trying to reach out to him. I'm trying to find him. So the first 5 people was like, well, we reached out to him as well. He never would respond. So maybe 2 days went by and then he responded. And he says, well, I think I'm your half brother. I'm not your uncle. He says, I think we're close in age, so I think I'm your half brother. So then I asked him if he mind giving me a call. And he did. And he was like, well, it's a bunch of us. And he gave me some history about my father's parents. So then I think from there, I went over to Facebook and then I found Shaun.
Yeah. And that was a very interesting day, let me tell you. I'm going to make y'all laugh a little bit. I was in the middle of doing her hair and she got a message from Jen. And we were obviously excited. We were anxious to kind of get some answers for all parties because this was the second time that this happened. Mm-hmm. Well, you talk about it, your situation and how that came to be.
Okay, I will. So, so like she said, it was the second time somebody reached out to me about it. So at this point, we're like, okay, we need to give some people some answers at this point because I'm the one that's going to connect them into it. So I can't lie, that was an emotional day for me because knowing that I could change these people's lives with a yes or a no. At the time, it was Jen and another guy that I won't say his name, but he's still like a brother to us. So I found out that he was not, but Jen was. And that's the one thing that I feared is that it could alter somebody's family idea of how it could be. So that was a little down for me on that part. But, I still contact him to this day. But it was a great Christmas present. Finding out that I have another sister. And we practically been talking every single day. And I absolutely love it.
I know you can see this smile on her face. Literally, this smile has not left her face since the DNA came back that it was 99.96% that they were sisters. It was a great day indeed. And we're going to talk a little bit about that process at the end in our fourth segment with Miss Scott, because Miss Scott was actually the puzzle piece that made this come together. So we're excited about introducing that. Shaun's got the last question for this segment for you, Jen. So Shaun.
All right, sis. Now that you know who our biological father is, would you still be interested in meeting him?
I don't know. I don't know. Or I think, I don't know.
And that's okay to not know.
That is okay.
It's okay to not know. It's a lot that's happened, if we're honest, since the DNA results came out.
Yeah.
So it's okay to not know. Yeah. If there's, as I said before, and I've said it to both of these young ladies since they found out, if there's any beauty in it, is that you found each other. And both of you all have an experience that you all can kind of relate to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's the beautiful part of anything, even when it's uncomfortable, it's still beautiful because God made it to be that way.
And it's okay to not be okay.
Absolutely.
But just know you're not alone because I got your back.
Absolutely. Great way to end this segment. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Y'all make sure that when you come in, show some love to all of us. Also, while you're in here, make sure you drop some questions in the box because we are going to ask questions in our fourth segment. So make sure that you do that as well too, okay? And we love you, sis. No matter what, we love you. You stuck with us.
Love you too.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to bring Rob and Sandy in, and they're going to talk about their story as it relates to finding their roots. And then we're going to end on some positive ways that you can find your family. This is a Q&A session. We're here to support all of those that are much like Shaun and much like Rob and Sandy and Jen, trying to find family and piece it together. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Hey guys, my name is Talisa McKnight, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and about my business and answer a couple of questions that I get on a daily basis. So I own Carnissa Lux Hair Braiding Services. I'm 18 years old. I am a home-based hairstylist and I will also travel. I've known how to braid hair since I was 4 years old. I started accepting clients a little bit over 3 years ago, and I started Carnissa Lux a year ago. Some of the services I offer are knotless braids, tribal braids, cornrows, island twists, invisible locks, quick weaves, braided ponytails. However, I do offer invisible locks. I don't do any type of natural locks or soft locks. Another thing you should know about my business is I am text and DM to book only. With that being said, please follow me on Instagram at Carnissa Lux. Thank you guys. Bye.
Welcome back to That's Life Podcast with
Leah
and Shaun. And I will reiterate, if you're trying to log in on Facebook, it is not working for some reason. Please log in on YouTube and catch our show, like and share.
Hey, you know social media, y'all. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. It just is what it is.
Gotta love it.
Thank you so much for all those that have tuned in tonight as we talk about finding your roots. We just had a very sweet, emotional story with Jen and Shaun and how they were reunited as sisters.
Yes.
And now we're going to show love to Rob and Sandy. We're so excited about having Rob and Sandy on the show. Before we do that, thank you, Gigi, for saying that. It was a beautiful story. Despite the situations and the circumstances, glad it had a good, happy ending. That's what we love about things like this, is that we love to be able to show love to those telling their story.
Absolutely.
So now we're going to read the next stat of the night and introduce our next guest. And I will be reading it. It comes from findlaw.com. According to the Adoption Network, 1 in 25 U.S. families with children have an adopted child. Almost 100 million Americans have an adoptee in their immediate family. There are 1.8 million adopted children in the United States. According to the National Survey of Adoptive Parents, 37% came from foster care, according to the NSAP. 38% of adoptions were private domestic adoptions, according to the NSAP. There were 1,113, foster children waiting for adoption out of the foster care system and into their permanent families as of 2021. According to the Adoption and Foster Care Analysis and Reporting System, fiscal year of 2021. According to the Adoption Network, the average age of a child waiting into a foster care system is 8 years old. And according to the Adoption Network, more than half of the children, 60%, spend 2 to 5 years in foster care. And it's important to talk about foster care because it is one of those things where a lot of times children don't get a chance to find their roots because they're in the foster system. So we have to show love to all those that are in the foster care system. So now we're going to introduce Rob and Sandy. I'm excited about having Rob and Sandy on the show. My cousins, welcome to the show.
Yes.
Hello everyone.
Hi.
We're glad to be here.
I am so glad to have you to talk about your experience and your situation. And as we talked about in the second segment, Shaun and Jen are sisters, and Rob and I are cousins. Sandy, of course, are cousins.
Yes.
They are my second cousins, which we will talk a little bit more about how that's to be. So Rob and Sandy, I'm going to give you both an opportunity. Tell us who you are and a little bit about what you do.
All right. So my name's Rob Carter. I am retired Army. I spent about 25 years right out of high school in the military. I retired about 4 years ago. I'm currently working in large-scale X-ray technology. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I met my wife Sandy going on 16 years now, and we've been married for 13.
Hi, I'm Sandy. I've been a nurse for about 17 years. And met Rob about the same time. It's been the best time of my life.
Absolutely. All those that are veterans you get love from us. Of course, we're both veterans, so thank you for your service, Rob. And also, thank you for your service too, so much, Sandy, in terms of being an essential worker, because a lot of times essential workers don't get the love that they need to. So thank you for both of your service.
Absolutely.
Shaun's going to ask the first question of the night. So Shaun.
All right, cousins. Rob, how old were you when you asked about your family tree?
Well, I knew pretty much that I was adopted early on in my life. So I was adopted as a baby, and I was given up to a phenomenal family who raised me my entire life until obviously the day I left and joined the Army. So I kind of knew that I was adopted. I just never really broached the topic with family members, because at that time, when I was young, it wasn't really weighing heavily on my mind. I had questions that needed to be answered about my adoption in the situation. But I think more so, I ended up being a little bit more curious in my mid-20s when I sat down with my mother. When I say my mother, for all intents and purposes, I'm speaking of my mother who raised me, not my biological mother. So I remember sitting down with her in my mid-20s and being curious to know why I wasn't told, I guess, up until that point, that I was adopted, knowing that I was. And that really opened up the topic of discussion. And then I really went from there. But really in my mid-20s when I became a little bit more curious to find like my biological side of the family.
And what I actually like about your story, Rob, is that you were aware. And sometimes, when you're a young person and you're trying to figure it all out and you're unaware, and then you get this information as an adult, it's harder to process. So I'm glad that you at least had awareness to be able to know how to process what that looked like. Sandy, I'm going to throw this question to you. Tell us a little bit about the circumstances on how you helped Rob to maneuver and find family, because I think that that's an important part of your story and how it came to be.
So it all began with his adoption paperwork. We initially started there, searching for his mother. Eventually, when we were looking for his father's side, we did turn to Ancestry DNA. And initially, there wasn't anybody on the father's side on Ancestry DNA. That came a few months down the line, and it was with his half-brother. And I used that as leverage to try to figure out family dynamics. I did go and do some Googling and some Facebook searching. And I actually did find some articles on his half brother, because he was very active in football and college football. And eventually that led us to his father's name. And Facebook really was the tool that I used to try to get in touch with that side of the family.
That's really cool. I'm going to say something petty. Although Facebook is not working for us tonight, it worked when it needed to. It needed to work. Right. So shout out to Facebook for doing some good things and being a connecting bridge for you to be able to find family. Absolutely. All right, Shaun.
All right, Rob. What were the expectations when you reached out to your family?
Well, it was hard to say. And this is something I kind of learned, I guess, the hard way. So my expectations initially were really just to reach out to my biological mother first. And as Sandy mentioned, we took like a two-way approach, right? Initially, we searched for my biological mother through the adoption agency. And that process, because obviously there are multiple processes besides, ancestry or DNA searches. So I knew the adoption agency in which I was adopted through. So I was assigned a caseworker who did the search for me for my biological mother. That did turn up a positive search for her, and we made contact several times by phone. After that, though, it was made clear to me that that was probably the extent of where that relationship was, and I understood completely. And I think at that time, that's when we started the DNA route. But my expectations were that it had been 40 years since my adoption at the time, and I figured that if I were to connect with either my biological mother or father side of the family, that there would be a positive reaction. That's not necessarily the case all the time, but I think more than anything, that helped me really manage my expectations on what to expect with any family member found on either side.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, as we talked about in our other segment, sometimes you have an expectation of what something is, and then it's the complete opposite from what it actually is. I'm glad that at least one side of the experience was a more positive experience for you and for the whole process as it went to be. My question to you is, how do you feel now that you have met your family, specifically your siblings and also your father?
It feels great. It took 40 plus years for me to finally get to meet someone that I was blood related to, which was an amazing feeling. And once again, my adopted family were phenomenal, but it's something to be said about actually knowing or getting the opportunity to know someone that you are blood related to. So to meet my father and to meet my siblings, both on my father and my biological mother's side, because I met two of my siblings on that side as well. It was great to be able to kind of see like a lot of the similarities with one another, having never met those individuals before in my life, So even not being raised together, the DNA is just strong on both sides, and you can see just so many similarities. So that's just great, and especially my father. It's like I say, I'm a light-skinned version of him essentially, because everything is from his mannerisms to everything is almost just identical, which is amazing to see, having not met him for 40 years of my life.
Well, let me tell you something, y'all. When I met Rob for the first time and I saw Rob, I was like, oh my dear goodness, this is my cousin Elvis, like he said in light skin form. From the walk to the talk to the whole thing, it was incredible to be able to see that. It was almost like the same situation when you and Jen got together, same moles on the nose. It was such a great thing to see. I was astounded. I'm still astounded sometimes when I see pictures of Rob and when I see pictures of Jen, and just comparing it to each other. It's absolutely phenomenal. Shaun's going to ask the last question of this segment.
All right. So this question is for Rob and Sandy. Now that you know who your biological father and family is, what would you say has been the best experience in meeting them?
I'll take this.
Gosh, there's so many positives from all sides of this. It made me happy for Rob because this is hard. Because although he seemed very perfect throughout his life, I feel like there was a happiness unlocked inside of him that we didn't necessarily know wasn't there. He was whole when we set off on this journey, and I don't think we anticipated feeling so overwhelmed with just all these emotional feelings and contacts that we've made, seeing him with his half brothers and his half sisters, and seeing some similar characteristics and mannerisms. They're just so wonderful to be able to experience. I don't know. I feel like there's not really much more we could have wanted from the situation, but we just got so much more than what we were expecting going in, for sure.
Yeah, I think for me, it's I echo what she said. Doing the search and not knowing what was going to turn up, it's been phenomenal all the way around. Even with the little bit, the few hiccups that we met initially, just knowing that I have such phenomenal family members, biological family members who I'm still getting to meet and haven't met all. The opportunity to get to know them and their story, tell them about my story, and then continue to build memories along the way. It's just been a all in all positive, for the most part, experience. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what the future kind of holds for us moving forward.
Yeah, we look forward to you seeing the extensions, the branches that come from the family, because it's so many. And it's it could be overwhelming, but it's also a very beautiful experience. So we're excited about you being able to be a part of that. We are excited about our halftime show now.
Halftime.
We are actually at the halftime where you can learn something in a minute. So whether it's the minute with the mechanic, minute with the savings queen, minute with the mini chef, but tonight it is all about our guy, the minute with the flavor king. Get something, learn something, and see what we got going on with the minute with the flavor king.
Welcome to A Minute with the Flavor King. Today we're going to make my own special seasoning blend. You can put it on avocado toast, you can put it on chicken and beef, you can put it on anything that you want. But today we're doing avocado toast. For your ingredients, you're going to use 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1/2 of a tablespoon of salt and pepper mix, 1/4 of chili powder, paprika, lemon pepper. It's okay if you put a little more. It's always going to be always good. Now we're going to mix it up. And of course, if you need extra seasoning for seasoning, you can always add more of your ingredients. So now we're going to put this on our toast. Spread it all around, even on the edges. And then we're going to add our lime.
This commercial and advertisement is brought to you by Albenda's Treats. Star Lynn is the proud owner of Albenda's Treats. Her business is an homage to an instrumental person in the owner's life. Her great-grandfather always called her Benda, an abbreviated version of Albender, her great-grandmother's name. When she started baking in 2003, she wanted to continue the legacy of her great-grandparents. Established in 2013 and relaunched in 2021, Albenda's Treats specializes in custom cakes for any occasion, small treats, and specialty orders such as gluten-free, sugar-free, plant-based, and pet treats for our furry family members. Albenda's Treats can accommodate any customer, and their treats are homemade and made with love. Albenda's Treats is mobile and offers shipping for an additional cost. To place your order with Albenda's Treats, text 678-753-6072, email albendas.treats@gmail.com, or message on any of their social media pages, including Facebook at Albendis Treats and Crafts, IG and TikTok at Albendis Treats, and their link tree at albendis.treats.
Welcome back to That's Life Podcast with
Leah
and Shaun. And if you haven't noticed, Facebook is not working, so please tune in on YouTube to catch our show.
Absolutely. We have been having a nice conversation. I'm a little bit emotional too about finding your roots with our special guests, Jen Norman, Rob, and Sandy Carter. And now we introduce finally our girl, Miss Jewell Scott. We're so excited about having her on the show. Jewell, welcome to the show.
Yes. Thank you. My pleasure.
Absolutely. We're excited about having Miss Scott's insight. As you all have seen when we've tagged her name, she is from Nationwide DNA, and she's going to tell you a little bit about what she does and just, the kind of crux of Nationwide DNA. So Jewell, tell the people a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah. Okay, so I am Jewell Scott, and I am known for about 23 years. We own Nationwide DNA Services, and also we were Right Choice Paternity Services. The reason why we opened up the business because it was actually personal from our own family background, from my brother to my cousin to the men in my family, and then including myself. That's a whole different episode. We won't talk about that tonight. So that's why it was open. And it was open because because alleged fathers were never offered paternity testing, let's say during the child support session. And then we were like, well, why weren't they offered that? And then we became an agent and we opened up our business. We started testing for the state, but we knew we had to go a little further than that, which meant that there were so many sectors that were not touched on regarding paternity. We started teaching ourselves about doing paternity for adoption, paternity for people that didn't know who their dads were, especially when 23andMe and Ancestry came out. We're the final dot. We're the ones that actually connect the final dot. Then we started doing the paternity testing for postmortem, dads that die before a baby is born or die and they never signed a birth certificate. And of course, there's money involved in those because that's Social Security benefits or that's wrongful death. So, and now, fast forward 23 years, or actually 10 years ago, we can determine who the father is just by a non-invasive pregnancy at 7 weeks. Okay? And we can determine who if the deceased person is the father by getting blood spot cards from GBIs and medical examiners. Okay? So that's who we are.
And one of the things that is important for reference is Ms. Scott was very instrumental in connecting Shaun and Jen. That is the reason why we have her on the show, and she's an expert at what she's doing. So we wanted to make sure that we had someone that was an expert on the show. Shaun's going to ask you the first question of the night. So Shaun.
Okay, Ms. Scott, why did you decide to be in this industry?
Well, once again, I decided to be in this industry because it happened to the men in my family. It's not like my brother went out and did a paternity test. My brother was a police officer. 15 years later, he spent $1,000 a month. We're from California, so we're from Los Angeles, so that's common. But the girl's mom called my brother and said, hey, I see a DNA test on my daughter's nightstand, and then the guy just got out of prison, so he's the dad and you're not. And then I never saw the nephew again. Then it happened to the cousin. Then it happened to the brother-in-law, but not for my sister. It just kept happening. And then I started saying, well, if we're a family, who else is this happening to? And then I started looking into the child support system because that's where a lot of dads are put on child support who don't know their rights and then think they're the dad, but they never had a DNA test. 1 out of every 3 are not the fathers. So if 1 out of every 3, let's talk about the 1 out of every 3 are not the fathers. So let's talk about the ones that are. Okay? They don't know. They have no clue who could possibly be their child. Now, that's in some cases. In some cases, they do know. Okay? Because we can go into infidelity and things of that nature. So that's how we got started with paternity testing.
Very, very nice. And I like to hear things like that because a lot of times there isn't an advocate for people to be able to say, hey, let's go and get DNA testing to be sure that you are biologically connected to a said person. My question to you, Ms. Scott, is why do people hesitate on doing DNA testing? Because we've heard so many war stories as it relates to DNA. We've heard people getting DNA stolen and just all the things that have come and been wrapped around DNA testing. Why do you believe a lot of people hesitate on DNA testing?
Well, first of all, people hesitate because some people know the truth. You got to remember now, when I first started, I would bring in OBGYNs. I know you say, why is the OBGYN coming on your show? You'd be amazed at how women don't know their body. They don't know they have 3 days of ovulation. They don't know that, well, if they was with Ricky on Monday and with Tony on Friday, you can't rule out Ricky. But they know they should have been with 2 people, or 3, or 4. Okay, so, or 5. I can go 5. I can go 6. They know in that 3-day period they were with other men. Sometimes they try to make the best decision for their children and pick and choose who they want. Now, this is not Maury. This is not any of these shows. This is reality. So when you look at paternity testing, there's all kinds of reasons why people hesitate to do it. But now we're in 2024, you guys. They were hesitant back then. DNA paternity test started in 89 and 1990. It was very expensive if you didn't do it through the child support system. And keep in mind, child support is able to keep your records for 7 years and test you against any child. A lot of dads don't trust that. Okay? So military men that are not married, they're going to the military. Well, this unmarried mother cannot reap the benefits for her child if a paternity test is not done. Okay? So it just goes through all kinds of different reasons why people hesitate. Some just don't want to know. Some don't want to open up the can of worms. Some people's mothers are in their 70s and 80s and are still in denial about DNA. We'll talk about that because in 2020, oh boy, we found so many people in 2020 during COVID.
I'm sure. Yeah. COVID definitely was.
2020 was the year that we.
Yeah, 2020.
Oh my God.
It definitely exposed a lot. Yes.
It was the year. It was the year. We had cars lined up because we would not let people in our office. We had cars lined up where we were testing people. How they find them? They did the 23andMe or they did the Ancestry, because you know they run a special around that time for $69.99. Then about Christmas time, it was just crazy. Everybody's going on, for example, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and connecting the dots. We're the final dot. These dads had no idea that they had a child, but they knew the mothers. And I talk about dads with every background. Dads with money, dads on high priority, dads with high status, dads with low status, dads with medium status. They never knew that that was possibly their child who's now in their 40s and 50s. They had no idea.
I'm sure. Jeez. Woo. Okay, so Shaun's got the question for you, and then we're going to move on to our tips and answer all the questions in the box. Before I asked our last question, shout out to everyone that's putting questions in the box. This is definitely a Q&A session. We're going to try to ask as many questions as we can ask in this session because we want you guys to be motivated and then definitely feel confident in if you're wanting to look for family members and what the approach should be, okay? So Shaun's going to ask the question to you, Ms. Scott.
All right, Ms. Scott, my last question. What would you say to someone if they have hesitation on doing DNA?
First of all, let's say that this new generation, they're not going to hesitate. I guarantee you at 13 and 14 years old, they're already starting to call. It's a totally different generation. The ones that are hesitating are the ones that are older. But the ones that are hesitant, don't hesitate. Don't hesitate because you never know what could happen or what book you can open or what chapter you can open in your life as far as knowing, hey, this is my biological, or this is what really happened, or this is what my story is. Everybody wants to know their story, Hey, I was even told I wasn't a part of the family. because I'm so dark, and my twin is 6'4" and high yellow with freckles. We didn't even look alike till I had my daughter. She looked like him. So you'd be amazed at what DNA does. We cannot look at someone to determine who is or who is not the father. But do not hesitate.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about tips and tools and things on how it will be beneficial to you as it relates to finding your family. So why not segue to the tips and tools, people?
Yeah.
You know, we have to give you tips and tools on how to find your long lost relative. We got this information from investigations.com, and we're going to definitely give you these tips because these were instrumental tips in Rob finding us and Jen finding Shaun. So the first one is
check social media.
So we talked about a little bit about social media, right? The most common way to find somebody nowadays is social media, people.
Yes.
Use social media to your advantage, whether it be Facebook, Instagram. There's lots of platform names. Sometimes you won't be able to find their legal name, but you can at least type in their information, and sometimes it'll populate someone else that's connected to them, okay? Here's the other part what I would say about social media. Be careful about who you reach out to on social media. Do your due diligence before you reach out to anybody on social media, okay? All right.
And so this
next one.
The next one is genealogy is your friend.
Okay, so we talked about the 23andMe's. We talked about Ancestry. Do projects that will help you build and track family trees. If you and your relative both use the same one, try to, again, message them on the same platform. It's often a good way to find out if you have relatives, because there's some people that just don't have social media, y'all. There just isn't. And so thankfully we have the ancestries.com. We have the 23andMe. I'm going to throw this question to both Rob and Sandy and to Jen. So I'm going to start with you, Jen. How instrumental was it for you to use the Ancestry to connect to Shaun?
It was very instrumental, but like I said before, it did give me an opportunity to meet my half brother, which then gave me information to find Shaun, which I found her on Facebook.
Absolutely. And then Rob and Sandy, what was that experience like for you? Because I know you said you used Facebook, but when you were able to connect the dots, what was that experience like for you to be able to see it in real time?
Yeah, it was good. Using Ancestry definitely helped out a lot. Just as Sandy mentioned a little earlier, on my paternal side of the family, there wasn't anyone in the database that was like a very close match to me initially until my brother Jarrett
and actually
showed up. Yeah.
Actually, he did not submit for himself. He was submitted by his wife. And so she was the administrator of his account. But there's a small fun fact, Leah. Do you remember you and I found this out later? Which I think was kind of one of the hard things I was telling Rob about was when I was reaching out via social media, it was very difficult to tell if people saw or did not see, because actually people can look at their message and then revert it back to being unseen. So it's difficult to tell. So we kind of sat in like the twilight zone area in limbo, wondering if our message made it. And 2 years, I don't know, many years, more than 2 for sure. Me and Leah, remember we looked back and I had messaged you all those years before, but I never reached you.
And that was an interesting process. We were sitting at the dining room table and she showed me the message and it never came through on my side. Interestingly enough. But what I'm grateful for is that Sandy was persistent. Because I think that a lot of times when you're dealing with social media, like you said, a lot of people don't know how to access Messenger, or maybe their message doesn't go through for some reason or another. And so it is your kind of due diligence to kind of follow up and make sure that messages are definitely getting relayed. Absolutely.
I can definitely say on my behalf when my sister messaged me, I'm not really on Facebook like that. So kind of sat there and like you said, you was doing my hair and it's like, I just haven't pulled up my phone. I was like, all right, let me go on Facebook today, I guess. And I saw a little notification. I was like, oh, somebody sent me a message thinking it's you that probably sent me something that I need to be looking at Facebook for something. But no, it was my sister that sent the message to me. And I was like, oh, wow. So there's definitely a patient level there for when, if you don't know how often somebody is on social media, if they're even on social media anymore.
Absolutely. And I hate to say, and not to interrupt you, but to some degree, Facebook is sometimes even obsolete because a lot of people don't use Facebook like that as much as they used to. When Facebook first came out, everybody was on Facebook.
Yeah.
But now it's become a lot more of an obsolete platform. Absolutely.
What are you going to say, Sandy?
I was going to say, to piggyback off of what Shaun was talking about, was when we messaged his father, it took him a year before he realized the message had been sitting in his inbox the whole time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. The next point of the night is
trade and industry content.
So I didn't know what this one meant. So I'm going to read this one to you. And I was actually surprised by it. So it's an easy way to control your information on platforms for socializing and shopping. In a connected world, professionals need to communicate with one another to move forward in their careers. That's why using trade and industry information can be a great way to locate someone. Whether it's the union registry or professional address or referral service or just a phone number to set appointments, that's a way that you can find family members. I don't know if it's effective now in this world, but that's something that a lot of people did use. And we even talked about that being jokingly about the white pages and finding people through the white pages because that was very common back in the day.
That was the only resource we had.
The last one, which is going to connect Miss Scott, is hire professional help. And yes, I jumped in on this one.
She just happy to say that line. She stole it right from me.
And this is why we have people who are certified in their job. Ask professional help. The people that have DNA services are there to assist you. Ms. Scott, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about how people can locate DNA services or know if they're reputable. Because a lot of times when people are looking to do DNA services, how do they know that they're reputable companies?
That is a good question. I only deal with AABB accredited labs. There's only 33 in the United States. People don't know that. So when you're on Google and you're looking up paternity testing, know that you're calling any random people that a lot of them are scammers. A lot. Okay? I'm a private agent. Now I can do testing. That private means I can do testing for the courts or I can do testing on a private level with attorneys hired. And I'm nationwide. So I can test in any state. Okay? New York has their own rule. We'll sit on the Philly or we'll sit on New Jersey. So we're going to talk about that. But the testing, you have to be careful because when you're calling 800 numbers, if they're not answering, if they don't know the questions that you're asking, make sure you ask the right questions. And you know what? I am a type of person that means this. Call me because I'm going to tell you if they are or are not. Okay? Because I know I can go into the system. I have a database where I can go and tell you who's the real and who's the not. It doesn't mean that you have to choose my company. It means that the company that you choose, I hope that you guys are choosing the correct. Okay? Remember, state of Georgia, for example, there are no labs in the state of Georgia. Everything is shipped out, as with most states. A lot of these laboratories are in Ohio, Carolina, Florida. They don't exist in the state. Okay? So your lab has to be accredited for reasons being, because if it's not, it is not admissible. It's not court admissible. You cannot use it for anything. Okay? So that's my point.
Absolutely. And that is important to know because let me tell you something. I did my due diligence. Well, if I have to brag on myself, I was the one who actually found Miss Scott because I wanted to find a reputable company when we did this. Because like you said, we have now reached a point in 2024 where there's more scammers than good people. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to ensure that when we did this DNA testing for Jen and Shaun, that this was with a reputable company. And shout out to Miss Scott, who's doing great things in the state of Georgia and doing amazing.
All states, all 50 states.
Absolutely.
New York, like I said, we'll send them to New Jersey or we'll send them to Philly, but we can still get the DNA legally.
Absolutely. So now we're going to answer the questions in the box. We're going to start with Harmelda Branford. So this question is to you, Rob, specifically. Do you feel more settled knowing that the family is beyond your dad's and your extended family? I don't know what she's trying to say. Do you feel more settled knowing the family? Let's just go with that. How about we go with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And we've had this conversation on many occasions. You know, not knowing what to expect from family members that you meet, it can be a little nerve-wracking. But I think, at least in meeting my biological father side of the family, every single one that I've met, it helped me kind of feel at ease, knowing that, you know, everyone is just phenomenal human beings first and foremost. And yeah, I'm definitely settled knowing that, that there's so many great, you know, people in my family that I can continue to bond with, continue to get to know more and more about, and then continue to grow with from this point on. So yes, I'm absolutely settled in the family.
Absolutely. And we love having you. Let me tell you something. We've already talked about coming to Florida, so that's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
I'm coming.
We got plenty of space. Fit right in.
Carmen's got the question for Jen. Jen, how did you feel, or how did your family feel about finding a sister?
My family is open and they love, because they know these are answers that I've always wanted all my life. The only one that really has a problem is my mother.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is you got more good than bad. So we could take a win where we could take a win. Absolutely. Yes. Mr. Hoodie always comes with some good questions. So I'm going to throw this question to Ms. Scott. What kind of information can DNA tests provide about my ancestry? Very good question.
Well, remember, we're the final dot. So you start out with a company like 23andMe or Ancestry.com. Once you start connecting those dots and reaching out to social media, trust me when I tell you, we are the ones that say, okay, you may have found your alleged father, or we have to call him alleged father, sorry. You may have found your alleged father, or you may have found a sibling. Avunculars, remember, avunculars do require your mom. So avuncular means aunt/uncle, right? Cousins, forget it. Cousins can marry each other. Cousins can marry each other. So if a cousin can marry each other, then it's too watered down for a cousin, okay? But siblings, y'all got to understand, there's too many ways for people to know now if you're related or not. Women are way ahead of the game, you guys. They're way ahead of the game. They can tell if their kids are full siblings or half, which means if they're half, their husband's not the father. If they're whole, their husband is the father. She dodged the bullet. That's today, okay? That is today. So half siblings can be like, in their cases where they found each other older, but trust me when I tell you, people are doing it for other reasons, to determine if their lover or their husband is the biological father of both of their kids. Okay, it just happens like that. Okay, but connecting the dot for ancestry, it starts with you doing something such as 23andMe or Ancestry.com. We are the final dot once you have a connection.
Perfect. Beautiful. We are getting ready to end our show, but we have one more question for Rob and Sandy and for Jen. Yes. And then we're going to give everybody a platform where they can find Jewell if you're looking for someone to help you with your DNA search. So Jen, I'm going to give you this question. What would you say to someone who wants to look for other family but is nervous about the outcome?
I would just still tell them to go for it. No matter, what the results may be, I think you should always just go for it.
Absolutely. It was the best decision that we ever did going for it. And we got a big sister in the process. So I'm not mad about it. Rob and Sandy, I shoot the same question to you. What would you say to someone who wants to look for other family members but's nervous about that?
I would say the same thing. If they're worthy of searching, they're worthy enough to accept, what may come with it. But just be cautious. Manage your expectations and understand that, your desire to find may not be their same desire to be found. But definitely go for it. If it's important to you, you should definitely take that leap and make it happen.
And not everybody is ready when you're ready. And so sometimes you just have to park that car for a little bit and give it a chance. You never know what could come down the line. But what I can say 100% is when we went into it, we tried to have an open mind and an open heart, and it has paid off dividends.
For surely. Yeah. I'm going to end by saying this before we say the other pieces that we have. I'm going to start off with you, Jen. I know your sister's going to say something to you too. I am grateful for the integral part you play in this family now. It has been a joy to have you in our family. I look forward to talking to you every day as though I talk to all my other relatives every day. And to see her smile, it's like icing
never
on the
ends.
Cake. Yeah, it's icing on the cake for me. You got anything you want to say?
I definitely agree. Having you a part of my life and now a part of our family's life, it's definitely been a game changer in my life. I can't not now see you being a part of my life since you've been in it.
So, yes, I feel the same way. I really do. I look forward to speaking to you every day, Shaun. I even love our video calls where we late at night on the internet researching. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then to Rob and Sandy, I'm so happy to have another cousin. I can't even tell you. I love having cousins. Rob can tell you, we come from a huge family of cousins and cousins and cousins. But I'm really grateful to have you as cousins, Rob and Sandy. I look forward to getting to know you more, you getting to know us more. I look forward to family trips, which, by the way, I'm looking forward to our reunion next year. But I'm just grateful to have you and to have your love and to have your support. That's what I would say.
Aww.
You got something to say?
No? It's been awesome hearing her talk about y'all. I'm sorry. I was stuck in the moment in here. But it's awesome hearing her talk about y'all and hearing your family talk about how much they love having you guys there and when you guys show up and seeing how everybody in the family is just smiling ear to ear and just welcoming you. It's been a joy. I can't say more. It's been a joy with you guys.
We agree. And we're blessed to have you guys in our lives now and looking forward to the future. You too, Jen. Your cousin now too. So that Florida invited you as well.
Oh, I'm on the way too. I'm coming with them.
That sounds like a great family reunion. Let me tell you something.
That's a good road trip there.
Absolutely. Miss Scott, if people want to find you and to use you as your services, where can they find you, ma'am?
First of all, they can find me at nationwidednaservices.com. That's our website. But if they want to personally talk to me, they can call 678-862-8854. Although I'm in Georgia, we are nationwide. We can test anybody, any place, anywhere, and out of the country.
Absolutely. And we will drop her information on the show so that you guys can have her information if you're interested in utilizing her. Y'all, thank you so much for tuning into our last show
of the
for season 10. I do want to give a couple shout outs. Number one, thank you to all our guests for being a part of the show tonight. Also, in 4 days, we will have celebrated our 4th year birthday as That's Life podcast. It has been a joy to do it with my partner, my bae, my boo, because she and I have the same vision for the show. So thank you to all those that come, support us, who subscribed, who have shared.
Yes.
Y'all make this show what it is right now. So thank you to all of those that have done so.
Tune in when we come back for season 11. You guys will not be disappointed.
Yes, we're coming back season 11 on 420, much less. Y'all don't come for me.
Don't.
Before y'all want to don't come for me. Come for me.
You didn't plan.
Don't come for me. But we are coming back on April the 20th, Earth Day.
Yes, that's what it is.
For season 11, as we talk about all things as it relates to That's Life.
Yes.
Before we end our show, we always give you a quote and a Bible verse. We're so grateful and thankful to all of you all. So this is our quote of the night. It will come from Shaun, and I will give you the Bible verse of the night.
All right, so the quote is by Roy Lesson. Forgive me if I didn't pronounce his last name right. Just think you're here not by chance, but by God's choosing. His hand formed you and made you the person you are. He compares you to no one else. You are one of a kind. You lack nothing that His grace can't give you. He has allowed you to be here at this time in history to fulfill His special purpose for this generation.
You better preach.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Psalms 133:1. How good and pleasant is it when God's people live together in unity. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight as we talk about finding your roots. Y'all go find your roots.
Yes.
Find out who your family is. Get informed and educated. We love you. And we'll see you for 420.
Yeah.
April 20th. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.
Yeah.